got some people on the line here. Hi, I'm Dean Cardinale from Worldwide Trekking. I'm here in Kathmandu, Nepal. Good evening, good morning here. It's 5:15 in the morning in Kathmandu, and I guess that makes it about 5:30 in Utah. I've been in Nepal for about a month. I've had two treks to up the Khumbu Valley in Nepal to Mount Everest Base Camp, and a special trek that we did. And last night, yesterday, I had a third group arrive. We'll do one more trip here. And I wanted to go live and touch base a little bit about our Mount Everest Base Camp treks that we do here, give you a little bit of information on that, a little bit of catch up from the season over here in Nepal. It's been really good. Weather's been cooperating with us for our helicopter flights in and out of the valley, and groups have been happy and things have been going well. So I'm going to share my screen as usual. Okay, yeah, this is a photo of Mount Everest from Kalapatar, and you can see the Khumbu Glacier down there on the bottom, and that's where Everest Base Camp is. So we had a group arrive, 13 people. They started October 1st, and we made our way up the valley. Here's a picture of our group. It's the monsoon season in the summer. So in the fall, the monsoon starts to break. That first trip, we had like one rainy day on the trek. Otherwise, the weather was really nice. And when we got up into the valley, the views were great. So we like to come this time of year because we can see the high mountain views up in the valley, like the one that's in the top of the screen there. That was our view when we were up on Kalapatar. You can see the group lower right at Everest Base Camp, and our entire group with some of our Sherpa guys in Lobache, which is a village at 16,000 feet, as we were coming down the last couple days. So the first trek was a full Everest Base Camp trek. We arrived in Kathmandu, went up into the valley, and trekked village to village all the way to the Mount Everest Base Camp. On my second trip, which I just finished a couple days ago, we did a custom itinerary for a private group, and we hosted a wedding ceremony for them. I married them up above Namche Bazaar in the valley, which was really special. I was honored to be a part of that moment for them. You can see here them doing their wedding vows, and up here, if you could see my pointer, there's Mount Everest right there. So we're looking at Mount Everest, Lhotse, Ama Dablam, and the entire Khumbu Valley. It was just a really great setting. We had a breakfast up there right after the ceremony, and you can see Everest in the background there, and the prayer flags flying. And then right after breakfast, we had the helicopters that dropped us off, pick us up, and then did a scenic helicopter flight up over Mount Everest Base Camp with all of the surrounding mountains. It was fantastic. And the weather has been beautiful, like totally clear skies up there with tremendous views. This time of year with the cooler temperatures, we have really great views, no clouds and no real haze on the mountains. So they're really clear, great for photographs. And that's why we like to come this time of year. So I'm in Nepal. You can see X marks the spot. That's a small country that's tucked in between India and Tibet, China. And we fly over from the US when I come here, and many groups fly through Doha or Dubai, and then from Dubai straight into Kathmandu airport. So here's a picture of Mount Everest. I guess, as you probably know, Mount Everest is the highest point on Earth, 29,035 feet. I've spent a lot of time over here since I was in my 20s climbing different mountains. Ama Dablam in the lower left, Lobache Island Peak, was on Cho-Oyu, didn't summit that one. You don't summit them all. Had bad weather, had high avalanche danger on Cho-Oyu. but did get up Everest in 2005 to the summit, and as well have just taken so many trekking groups up the valley, village to village, to the Everest Base Camp with Worldwide Trekking. And it's an amazing journey. It's something that people really enjoy, something that's challenging, something that I feel for them is life-changing. So I'm going to kind of go through a little bit of history on the area. I'm going to go through a little bit of the day-to-day, kind of the overview of the trip and how we do it. People arrive, as I said, in Kathmandu. And when they arrive in Kathmandu, we pick them up at the airport. You know, there's a long history here with the Kingdom of Nepal, with many, four main dynasties that ruled Nepal, kings and queens, and big royal palaces. And the borders were closed in Nepal until 1950. So 1950, they signed this Indio-Nepal Treaty of Peace and Friendship, and that's what opened the borders. Prior to 1950, there was no people coming in or out of Nepal at all. And then once the borders opened, of course, the climbing groups is what really came first, and that was the big push in the beginning. But within time, they realized that this would be a place for tourism, and now Nepal welcomes many, many tourists a year, most of them trekking to Mount Everest Base Camp, others coming to explore the Kathmandu Valley, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There's lots of things to see here. There are 36 trekking routes here in the Himalayas of Nepal, and as you know, numerous mountain climbs, and we'll get into it. So we stay at the Yak and Yeti Hotel in the beginning for 2 nights. The group that arrived last night, they checked in. I'm in the Yak and Yeti Hotel right now. It's a beautiful hotel that's just off of the main tourist area of Tamil, which is close by. You can see on the picture on the left where the pool is. That back section is the corner of what was one of the dynasty's royal palaces. So here in this photo, you can see the entire royal palace where my pointer is, and that's gone, but you can see that corner right here. That's that section, and since they built that hotel off to the side here, the rest of the palace is gone. So last night our group showed up. We have our third group, is a group from Cool, the clothing company. 13 people showed up. We had our welcome dinner. Took that picture in the lower right last night, and we have a Nepalese music team that plays with some cultural dancing and beautiful dinner out there, right in that corner of what was the old royal palace. And today I'll do my briefing this morning for the group up in one of the rooms there at the royal palace. So after they settle into Kathmandu, we like groups to arrive a couple days before we start the trek. One person on this trip had a flight problem, so they're coming in today. People could have delayed bags. Also, the jet lag flying. As I said, it's 5:30 in Utah right now. It's just after 5 in the morning here, so there's a significant time change. You want to give people a little time to adjust. There was many dynasties, and one of the last royal family was unfortunately one of the family members, one of the sons of that, massacred the entire family at a dinner that they were having in the royal palace in 2001. And by 2008, Nepal declared itself a federal Democratic Republic of Nepal. So now it's ruled by a president and a prime minister. There's no royal family like there was in the past here in Kathmandu, the Valley of Nepal. But I think the interesting thing for me has always been the climbing history. And the climbing history of here is because of men and people wanting to come and climb Mount Everest from the early days, the highest point on Earth. There was a gentleman called George Everest that was the surveyor that the mountain is named after, that determined it to be the highest point on Earth. And many different climbing parties came. So in the beginning, before they opened the borders in 1950, those early expeditions that maybe you know about, 1920s, with Sandy Irving and George Mallory, those guys were actually going around through Tibet and coming in from the north side of China. They weren't coming up the Khumbu Valley like many groups are today, climbing Mount Everest from the Nepalese side. They were climbing from the China side. So if you see on this photo where the red is Mount Everest, they were coming in from the north side there. So we're in Kathmandu, just to the left of the Everest area. It's about a 30-40 minute flight, depending on how you go, into the valley. In those early days, they actually trekked from Kathmandu in the 50s. So once they signed that treaty that opened the borders in 1950, in 1951, Eric Shipton had done a reconnaissance mission, because from Kathmandu, and they're coming in overland into Kathmandu, they had to also trek from Kathmandu all the way up to the valley, the Solo Khumbu Valley, the lower Khumbu Valley, and then they made their way up into the Khumbu Valley, where the Sherpa people settled. And they basically, the Sherpa people, which is a ethnic group. It's not a job. It's an ethnic group. The Sherpa people, the people from the east, that means Sherpa. And they came over from Tibet to kind of flee Tibet, to hide basically up in those upper areas of the Khumbu Valley. So that's why they settled there. And Eric Shipton had gone up, and prior to the borders opening, he was climbing a mountain from the China side, looking over the ridgeline, saying like, oh, there's the way into this mountain. This is the valley that will give us better access to climb Mount Everest. So in 1952, after the reconnaissance mission, there was a Swiss expedition that took place, and they got very close to the summit. They pioneered the way up the Khumbu Valley. They set out from Kathmandu, made their way up into the Khumbu, all the way up to the ice fall in the Khumbu Glacier, and set out from there. And over their expedition, they came very close to summiting on the high ridge. There's the South Summit and what's now called the Hillary Step. They got turned back there, came back down, and they did not summit the mountain in 1953 or 2. In 1953, the British came over and launched an expedition. And I think many of us know that in 1953, Mount Everest was climbed for the first time by Tenzing Norgay Sherpa and Sir Edmund Hillary. So interesting stories to go along with that in a lot of ways. It was a big British expedition. Ed Hillary was a beekeeper from New Zealand. They weren't actually the first team to have the chance to go for the summit on that expedition. Of course, the British would have rather had a British guy climb to the top first, but they came back unsuccessful. And then Ed Hillary and Tenzing Norgay Sherpa then went up, and they were able to reach the top. And that's where that spot where the Swiss had gotten turned back, that high rock climb on the ridge line going to the summit of Mount Everest, is now called the Hillary Step. And that's that rock climb named after Sir Edmund Hillary. In 1963, there was the Americans on Everest, the first American expedition. Interesting thing here is from the start, where I am here at the Yak and Yeti, by this time they had developed this hotel called the Palace Hotel because of the Royal Palace. And on this photo, the pictures of them with their gear out on the left-hand side is actually where they put the gear all over the back lawn here at what's now the Yakinneti Hotel, where the pool is, that whole big area where we had dinner last night. They had thousands and thousands of pounds of gear assembled back here, organizing it to launch their expedition. They also walked in from Kathmandu to the valley with over 2,000 porters that carried all of their supplies up to put themselves in position to climb up to the top. So you can see here, this is pretty much where the pool is out there right now. All of their expedition gear, which in those days weighed a lot of wooden crates and supplies, bringing everything imaginable over, food supplies, everything else for their mountain climb, and they stood on top. So you can see now the Yakinneti today. I'm sitting right off in the main building on the left-hand side of this picture right now, in the bar and lobby area of the hotel. And that's where they had assembled all of their things. So as you can imagine, the Everest expedition for the first Americans on Everest was a big achievement in mountaineering in the America, and a lot of things came of that. Life magazine here. A lot of their expedition was funded by, them doing research, high altitude research, cold weather research of scientific research on the mountain, which helped probably fund their expedition, like many expeditions that go out with a purpose today, even at that point. And then, of course, the lucrative endorsements to follow. I kind of got a kick out of this Camel cigarette ad that I found online from those early days as well. So that was kind of interesting. Climbing has developed over the years, as any sport does. Like you can see here on the left-hand side, climber, crossing a crevasse using ropes, and then eventually going to like trees where they could walk across down trees to cross crevasses with their crampon spikes on those timbers. And then now we're using more like ladders, aluminum ladders, to cross crevasses like this. Safety lines in case you were to fall, but ladders that cross. It's a very dangerous portion of the climb. The lower Khumbu Icefall moves about 2 meters a day, and as it does, it's constantly changing. It's a slow moving waterfall of ice, right? So it's moving all the time. Another famous expedition, if you've read the book Into Thin Air, they also stayed here at the Yakinneti. The team from Adventure Consultants, the team from Mountain Madness, spent their time here, getting up into what became the commercial age of expeditions on Everest. In 1996, you had those two teams going for commercial expeditions up onto the mountain. And I think a combination of, and you can read the book Into Thin Air, a combination of the pressure that they both felt, pushing themselves both to get their teams to the top, because getting their teams up successfully to the top would ensure that people came and signed up with them for the next year. For us at Worldwide Trekking, we do more adventure travel, treks, and things like that. That opens it up to more people out there that are able to achieve our goals. Commercial expeditions in this day, of course, was going to feel the pressure. And I do know that for us, even on Kilimanjaro or here at Everest Base Camp, one of the things that people ask all the time is like, what's your success rate? And that's the pressure that they felt. I think that safety goes with success. It's important to run a safe trip, making sure that people are safe. And, it's not all about getting to the top. It's about making sure you come home too. But it's an interesting book and an interesting read. As our trip goes through right now, the way that we do it is we'll spend a couple days here in Kathmandu. Yesterday, the group went on a cultural walking tour of Durbar Square. Palace Square. That's pretty close to the hotel here. Did a rickshaw ride back to the hotel before our dinner last night. And tomorrow or today, we'll head out on a number of a day of cultural tours and a gear check and everything else. But the interesting thing here in Nepal and in the Himalayas is Nepal's home to 8 of the world's 10 highest peaks, and it's got hundreds of peaks above 20,000 feet, so above 8,000 meters. And it's got 10 of them, and it's got a number of them that are about 6,000 meters. So Nepal is on the Indo tectonic plate and sets on top of that plate, and it's still actually pushing under, and it's still rising just a little bit. And I think that there's just a little tiny bit of landmass rise here each year, every couple of years, as that plate pushes underneath the other tectonic plate and heaves it up. It's interesting to know that, like, if you think of the European Alps and the Appalachian Mountains in the east coast of the United States, at one time the Appalachian Mountains were higher than the European Alps, and then they've eroded down over centuries and centuries and hundreds of thousands of years. So very interesting to see. As far as our trips go, we want to be here in the pre or post monsoon time. The monsoon starts in June through July and August. It kind of settles down into September, and now we're seeing it linger a little bit more. And even when the monsoon breaks, there's still some clouds around, so we push our trips back into October, which is the busy trekking time. And into November, it's starting to cool off a little bit more, but the weather gets very clear. And we also do our trips in the spring, the month of May. And that's when all the climbers are up there at base camp getting ready to climb Mount Everest in May, because they're waiting for the winds way up high in the mountain right before the monsoon starts. The winds drop down for a couple weeks high on the mountain, and they're in position at that point, if they planned it right, to go to the top of the mountain when those winds drop down. So gonna see here the seasons of Nepal again. You know, for us, the springtime and the fall is going to be the best time for good views of mountains. When we get up into the mountains, we want to make sure that sure, we can all wear a rain poncho and we can deal with some rainy weather, and we might even get that on any given time. But we also want to have unobstructed, clear views of the high Himalayas when we get up there for those great photographs and those great scenes that we can see. But we spent a couple days here in Kathmandu getting ready. This is Teahouses, the shopping area. We've got an amazing guide team here that I've worked with. Geljan, Sherpa, and myself have run our operations here in Nepal since Worldwide Trekking's very first trip was the trek to Mount Everest Base Camp in 2007. And we've done it ever since. And that first year, I had run 1 trek to Everest Base Camp, 2 on Kilimanjaro, 1 to Mount Meru, and 1 to Mount Elbrus, Russia. And that was the first year of Worldwide Trekking in 2007. But our Sherpa team, all Sherpa guys that help us on the trip, we have my main operations manager, Geljan, and then a number of other guys that help out as we go up the valley. They're invaluable for our operation here. Just super professional, super humble, super accommodating to our guests, and they help all along the way. We couldn't do it without them. So I like to thank them for sure and recognize their hard work and dedication to Worldwide Trekking over the years. This was our celebration dinner on the first Everest Base Camp trek. So after people arrive here in Kathmandu, like the group that arrived yesterday, they come back to the hotel. They took a rest for a few hours, and around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we met in the lobby, and my cultural walking guide of Kathmandu guide took them out, and they go for a couple hours to the Durbar Square. And then last evening, we do a private welcome dinner. This is the first group's private dinner We have a Nepalese music team with some cultural dancers. It's a really nice evening, and it's a time when people can get to know one another, because many of our groups, like this group, they didn't really know each other. So they're couples and individuals and different people from different places in the country coming together, and they have that night to kind of get to know each other. We stay in house at the hotel, so it's easy. We're usually done by about 8:30 or so, and they can get more rest because they've traveled a long way. And then today we'll head out on our cultural tour. We'll go over to the Monkey Temple, a Tonka painting school. We go to the Bagmani River sometimes. It depends on what's going on and how much time we have. We have lunch, and then we come back to the hotel here. So these are some pictures from Tamel. We'll hit the shopping area on our last day before the group goes home. So when we fly out of the valley, we really don't go, I don't kind of, we go into Tamel for lunch today, but we really kind of encourage people to wait and do their shopping at the end when the things that they're going to want, or there's so many good things to buy in Kathmandu and unique things. It's nice to do it after the trip when they kind of have a little bit more sense of what is more meaningful to them. So this morning after breakfast, I will, like in the picture on the left, we do a orientation briefing, giving everybody the information that they need, the overview of the trip. We talk about safety. We talk about Diamox, the high altitude medication many people take. We talk about the day-to-day routine on the trail and just kind of the big overview so people can ask questions, but also get informed on what we're going to do, make our plan for the next couple weeks trek. We did our celebration dinner last night, and then lower right this afternoon, myself or whomever's guiding goes around to the rooms, kind of knocks on the door and does an individual gear check or answers questions that people might have as they're packing up their bag. They can bring a 40-pound duffel bag on the trek. We give a gear list to them, and then they have their day pack, and then anything they don't need on the trek they'll keep here in storage at the Accommodations hotel, and then we'll transfer it over to the Hyatt. When they finish the trip, it'll be waiting for them there. So today we'll head out on our cultural tour. It's really good to see some of these sites in the valley before we head up into the mountains. We'll have our lunch, and then this afternoon we'll do that gear check. We'll make a plan this evening. I usually have a whiteboard that I go over with the group with times. Tomorrow will be an early morning time for the group. We'll be heading out of here about 6 o'clock in the morning. They'll open the restaurant here early for us. We'll have breakfast, and then we'll head after breakfast. They'll store any stored bags here at the Accommodations. They'll take their duffel bag that's going on the yaks to base camp with them from village to village, and their day pack, and we'll head to the airport. We use helicopters to get in and out of the valley now all the time with Worldwide Trekking. We do a helicopter assisted transfers that go into the valley and out. And reason being is over the last couple of years and now all the time, they are using an alternate airport for the fixed wing that flies into Lukla. That's where we start the trek. And that airport is 5 hours from Kathmandu. So it's a 5-hour kind of miserable drive to get there. We use helicopters right here from the Kathmandu airport, fly about 45 minutes into the village of Phok Ding, and we trek the first day to Manjo. And then at the end, when we're coming down, we trek down 2 villages to the village of Farishay at 14,000 feet, and we fly back to Lukla and connect right straight back to Kathmandu in the helicopters. It's a beautiful scenic flight, but it's also much more efficient and a much better way to go. Over the years, for me, the helicopters also ensure that if there's not, if there are some clouds, the helicopters can fly around the clouds a little easier, or maybe land in an area that's not the landing strip up there in Lukla. So if you see this photo from Kathmandu, we're flying to the east about 45 minutes into the valley to start our trek. And then we're going to go from village to village up the valley all the way to Mount Everest Base Camp, back down to Farishay, and then fly back to Kathmandu. So these are A-Star B3 helicopters. They hold 5 people each. On my first trip, I used 3 helicopters all at the same time, flew everybody into the valley. And then after the trek, when we were up in Farishay, we spend the night, and then in the morning, the helicopters pick us up and fly us all the way back to Kathmandu. It works very well. It's an amazing trek. It's an amazing journey up there, going from village to village. A lot of, these are called Mani stones. That's the Om Mani Padme Om, the well wish for all people, all living beings, basically, as we pass by. Really nice to see. Important to know that our Everest Base Camp trek is rated strenuous, okay? So it's not technical. So meaning that, if you take on a workout plan, you prepare yourself, you gear up for it, and you're physically fit to hike for, full days, 5 to 8 hours, of walking each day. We take breaks. The nature of trekking, if you do it wisely, is to go really slow and steady, take breaks, and enjoy the journey. And it's not a race. It's a slow, as I say, we sneak up on the mountain. Okay. It's a sneak attack, is how you got to look at it, is just moving along slowly and comfortably, to get yourself up there in position. But these strenuous treks oftentimes are up into the higher altitudes. So we're going to spend multiple days above 14,000 feet and 10,000 feet and 11 and 12,000 feet. And that also adds to the nature of it being strenuous. All of our bags are transported village to village on yaks or zokios that we use here in the valley. It's a pack animal that brings all of our stuff. Each day you just trek with a small day pack with what you need for the day, village to village. We stop for lunch, we refill water, and then the following in the afternoon, we'll follow up and head right up into the valley. So this is one of those big, beautiful yak animals. They're very docile. They're just kind of carrying huge loads as we go in and out of the valley. Many people use porters. We use teams of yaks. We'll have like 9 yaks on my first trip, and probably on this trip as well. You can see how people generally are dressed for the trek. We give you an extensive gear list with everything that you're gonna need, only personal items, your personal clothing, a sleeping bag for the tea house, and you're set, ready to go. And we have many videos on that, and we also are always available to consult. Drinking water is also something that's really important. We provide all your drinking water. Obviously, here in Kathmandu, we use bottled water. When we get up on the trail, we use that Cardinale Expedition ceramic filter. We take their boiled water into a basin, we repump it through, and are filling water bottles for our group constantly. So you have a couple Nalgene 1-liter bottles, and we fill them up constantly throughout the trip. And as I said, load our stuff up on the yaks and head on up the trail. So this is one of the groups as we're going up through the ends of the rhododendron forest up there by Debauchet. You can see those Mani stones on the right. Group's always going to pass by on the left. That's kind of customary here, passing all the offerings, the Buddhist offerings on the left. We go over a number of suspension bridges on the trek up to base camp, and they're very safe. They're big cable bridges, steel bridges, and really fun for people to cross over. This is a typical tea house, like a lunch scene where we would go in. And one thing about meals is for breakfast and dinner, everybody just orders off the menu. So there's 2 things with that. The menu doesn't change a whole lot, but you can order whatever you'd like for your breakfast each morning, for dinner each evening. And then in an interest of saving time, we do family style for lunch. So we'll order a bunch of things and people can kind of fix their plate and have a variety each day, and we mix that up. But if we all went in with this many people and ordered individually, we would be there for hours at a tea house for lunch. So we'll send somebody ahead with a lunch order, and then when we arrive, it's ready for us to go. This is the largest Gampa monastery in the Khumbu Valley. This is called Tangboche Monastery. It's a little over 13,000 feet, and we'll climb this Tangboche hill up to the monastery. A lot of times we'll go in here and see the monks doing their afternoon chants. We do some special blessings, what's called a puja ceremony that the Lama performs for our guests. You can see I have my strings, my silk strings on right now from the last 2 trips, and that's a blessing. That's kind of for a safe journey here as we go up the valley. So this is the silk string I'm talking about. You can see it hanging from the Lama's hand. It's tying around the neck of one of our guests, and it has a knot in it that's blessed by the Lama. So typical tea house scene. One of the things we also do at Worldwide Trekking, and it's a little thing, but it makes a big difference, is we put tablecloths on all the table. We always manage our site in there, keep it clean, clean up, set the table, but we also bring all of our own condiments. And it sounds like such a minor thing, but the ketchup, the mustard, the syrup, the honey, salt and pepper, all these things that people are going to want to use for their food. We don't want to use what's already in the tea houses. It's a minor thing that makes a huge difference for our groups, especially after 10 days on the trail at these tea houses. And we know that it's more hygienic. It's clean. We know how old it is. It's brand new. It hasn't been sitting in a tea house, having been used by dozens and hundreds of people over the trekking season. So it's a little thing we do. This is a typical tea house room. They're very basic, a couple bunks in there, where you can put your sleeping bag out, and you make your own setup there. Bunks are 2 bunks per room for 2 people, or some people get a single, and you bring your sleeping bag and set it out. In the lower valley, there's toilets and showers in the tea house rooms. And when we get up to about Farache, then there's a shower at the end of the hall. Above Farache and Lobuche and Gorakshet, the last 2 villages, people generally don't shower. It's cooler up there. It's a couple days up high where you're not going to shower. And they have a shared bathroom, like toilets, up in those last couple villages. The tea houses do have some things to buy. We provide 3 meals a day, popcorn before dinner, and tea along the way, and snacks and all that stuff. There are sodas, there are Snicker bars, there are some things, Pringles potato chips, that people can buy as they get up here. So this is above the village of Farache, and you can see the vegetation now is gone. And I like to tell the groups, when we don't have trees, when we don't have vegetation that's growing like that, it's a harder environment, right? It's harder on the plants and the flora, and that it's also harder on us. So that's why we go slow along the way. This is the U-shaped valley of Farache. So if you see my pointer, the Khumbu Glacier's coming in on this side here, and this big flat-bottomed valley was formed by glacier. So it's a big U-shaped valley as opposed to a V-shaped valley, which would be formed by a river valley, like lower in the valley. You can see where there are some of these high marks where the glacier once was, hundreds of thousands of years ago. Very important to us, as you probably know, the Human Outreach Project does a lot of programs in Nepal, also Tanzania and Peru, and in the United States. We've got a long history here in Nepal. We have some programs. This is the Gampa, the monastery down at the a village called Caracola, which is below the Lukla landing strip. We put in a bunch of right here, this whole addition onto the monastery, which is all rooms for the young lamas that are being trained at that monastery. There's some of those guys in the stairway going up to the monastery, the main Gampa there. It's been a nice project building their living quarters. You can see lower right, the rooms that we built for them over the last couple years. We also support Juving and Caracola schools. They're also below the Lukla landing strip. So these are kind of off the beaten path, well below where the normal tourist track is. we had done solar supplies and computers and things after the earthquakes, and we also pay for 4 teachers to their salaries at that school and the tuition for the kids. And it's just been a really great program to help support these small villages. Many of our Sherpa guys, our team, come from these villages, so it's really nice for us to support them. And they don't see the tourist traffic, so they don't get the support, and we're able to do that over the years. This is us going in. I usually try to visit once a year. They're very welcoming, doing some cultural dancing and welcoming us there. And then I like to check in on the projects each year. A couple of years ago, a few years ago now, we built a medical clinic in Manang, which is near the Annapurna Circuit. We took down the existing medical clinic and built a new medical clinic there with the help of Cool Clothing. They helped fund the program and the project. They're actually here on this trek with me right now. We do that through the Himalayan Rescue Association. They are the Nepalese organization that has these high altitude medical clinics, and we've partnered with them to help with their medical clinic. So this is the medical clinic in Farishay. A couple years ago, it was built in the 70s, stone building, very small, kind of older, needing repair and needing updating. And we took on that project a few years ago, broke ground actually during the pandemic here, put a lot of my guys back to work and people back to work when there wasn't tourism, and took on the plans to build this new medical clinic at 14,200 feet up there in Farishay. Over the next couple years, you can see the construction. We're building it with a more earthquake proof structure, not a stone structure, but with these struts and panels there. And now you can see the red building here in the middle of the village. That's the new medical clinic that we are going to officially open on this next trek. We're excited to do it. Cool is here, and that's why we're going to go up there. We're going to trek to base camp, but we're also going to do a little bit of ribbon cutting, so to say, up there at the medical clinic. It's really good. We've been doing a lot of finishing touches. Now we're in phase 3, where it's some furnishings and pictures on the wall, making it a warm and friendly place, and something that all of our trekkers that go to base camp stop by here. We spend 2 nights in Farishay to acclimatize, and the medical doctors there give a high altitude lecture every day at 3:00. We always attend that. But I also think that it's really important for the local villagers, over 1,000 a year, that are seen at this clinic, have some medical resource that they can go to. And they come from far away to come to this clinic. In the spring and the fall, there's a Western doctor there, and then we're going to have it manned by a Nepalese doctor in the off season, so the local villagers have support regularly. So this is the old structure, the old lecture hall, and the old building here. And this is what we just built. So we took down the lecture hall, put up a new lecture hall first, and now we've just completed this new structure here on the right. And now we're working on the interior and all the little things that go inside. And then we'd like to finish off the courtyard there, I guess, that area outside. We want it to be a warm, welcoming place when local people have to go see a medical doctor. For us, obviously, medical, safety is very important on the high altitude trek. We bring a hyperbaric chamber, one of those Gamma bags, lower left. I can put somebody in the Gamma bag, and we do a demo every time we go to Farishay to train our guys and make sure our equipment is working properly. We've never had to use it on the trek because we take a slow pace. But in that bag, if at altitude, people lack pressure, so we can put them in the Gamma bag, we can pressurize it, and from 14,000 feet in less than 10 minutes, we can bring them down to about 8,000 feet. And in high altitude trekking or climbing or anything, if you have problems, rule number 1 is to descend. So we're able to descend somebody if we needed to. We also do medical checks every single day on these last trips that I've run, and our Kili trips and any high altitude treks at Worldwide Trekking. We do a medical check. So the medical check is basically this chart where I check people's pulse ox. I see if they are taking their Diamox, if they have a headache, how they feel, if they have any aches and pains, they're eating, sleeping, and going to the bathroom normally. Check that every single morning. And then if I have 14 people, I know what each person's status is. And if they have problems, which many of them have little things, or they're concerned about something, we can talk about it. We can get them heading in the right direction to make them feel more comfortable. This picture I just took my first trip. This is Mount Everest on the left, Nuptse on the right, and the South Col right here at 26,000. That's Camp 4 right there on Everest, and the ridge line here to the south summit, up to the Hillary Step, and then to the top of the world, 29,035 feet. This is a group trekking into base camp. You can see the Khumbu Glacier coming down. We're starting out usually first thing in the morning, trek on into base camp. The day before we go up Kalapatar. This is the view from Kalapatar. That's 18,500 feet. Base camp's about 17,700 feet. We hit both places. The way that we do it is, we start down here on the map, low part of the line, and make our way village to village for multiple nights, all the way up into the upper areas above Namche. Let's see here. Yeah, then right here, we're in Farache, where the medical clinic is here. We make our way up to Lobuche for the night. The following day, we go into Gorak Shep. That afternoon, we can go up onto Kalapatar, spend the night in Gorak Shep. The following morning, into Everest Base Camp, back to Gorak Shep for lunch. From Gorak Shep in the afternoon, we head down to Lobuche for the night, day that we go into base camp. And then the following day, we go from Lobuche to Farache. We spend the night. And then the next morning, we get picked up in the helicopters and head home. So that's basically, or head back to Kathmandu. We call it home, but it's back to Kathmandu, back to civilization. So here's Gorak Shep here. Here's the trek up Kalapatar. There's great views from all along this trail. This is trekking into Mount Everest Base Camp. We're going right out onto the glacier, right out onto the ice, and it's really fantastic. So get out there, trekking on through the rock scree and the rubble out onto the glacier, and making our way to Everest Base Camp. This is around 17,700 feet. Here's a group from last year, actually. Good picture, beautiful day. We've had great weather all along the way. This is where the climbers set up their base camp. If you go in the spring season in May, you'll see the climbers out there. We don't go into their camps. They don't want to be bothered by trekkers poking their head in, possibly getting them sick before they climb. In the fall season, there's really nobody out there, but there is the base camp marker, and the weather's really good in the fall season. So here's these are actually base camp pictures from when I was on Everest in 2005. So these are a little bit older, but it looks very similar. Might have a little bit more tents up there this time in these years, but there's our prayer flags flying over our camp with the Khumbu Icefall in the background. After we visit Lobuche and up into base camp, come down to Lobuche for the night. Here's us, we're making our way. And this is usually a really proud day. People are going downhill. The weather probably is nice out. We'll be on this next trip. We're making our way down to Farache. We have lunch there, and then the afternoon people can kind of relax and get ready. And we thank our group of Sherpa guys, because we say goodbye to them in Farache that evening. And then the next day we're flying from Farache. We're staying right in here. The helicopters land out in this field, and then like this, and then we work our way back down to Kathmandu. In Kathmandu, we stay at a different hotel on the way out. We transfer all the bags from the Yakineti over to the Hyatt. It's a beautiful big hotel. It's close to the Bodhana Stupa, so people can see another one of the sites here before they leave. That afternoon, we usually go into Tamil and do some shopping, let people go shop around, have lunch, whatever they'd like. Maybe they want to go to the pool or go to the spa. It's kind of a free day. And then we're closer to the airport out there. We have a celebration dinner, another private dinner there. The Nepalese music team playing some music, and everybody kind of talking about the trip and all the fun experience they had up there and on the trek to Mount Everest Base Camp. As I said, it's real close to the Bodhana Stupa, so people can go over there the following day before they fly out. And then basically we do airport transfers. So a couple more pictures of Mount Everest. And that is basically our trek to Mount Everest Base Camp. So it's a really amazing experience for people. It is strenuous, but people can do it. Like Kilimanjaro, it's strenuous, but people can do it. If you need a little bit of training routine, we have a training plan, a nutrition plan. But if you're a person that likes to be active, if you have a regular workout routine, if you want to make the way to Everest Base Camp, we make it available for you. It's something that many people can do. And when you're well guided, you have a good plan, it's safe to be with us. We make sure that you're comfortable along the way, and we inform you on all the things that you need to know about to make the journey to Everest Base Camp. So thanks for joining me today. It's a pleasure to be here and share the story and tell people about Mount Everest. And hopefully we'll see you on one of our Everest Base Camp treks. I'm going to sign off and get ready for my group to come to breakfast. Thanks again from Kathmandu.